So we worked together on the farm. I did. My dad and uncles all worked together and got people to get the points together in these diversified agriculture. And we really were able to accommodate and get the points. And Green Lawn Farm, which was our farm, got electricity. And then we expanded. We went from 10 cows to 20 cows. We went from 100 sheep to 200 sheep. We had 250 head of chickens, and we had a roadside stand that now you could run because you had the water to clean the vegetables and all this kind of stuff. And so things really grew. And now the crime. Mr. Rousecup was about he ran the country store about a mile and a half away. And he needed more butter and eggs. Well, most of you won't know this, but during World War II, things were rationed. I mean, everything went through government control and was organized to be rationed. Well, I know my mother was the instigator of this, because Dad wouldn't have done it. And I'm sure that what happened is, after a discussion with Mother and Mr. Rousecup, who ran this country store, which actually had everything from canned corn to muskrat traps. I mean, you could get it all there. It was a wonderful place and a great place for a 6-year-old to come visit. So they talked for a while, and he wanted our butter, and he wanted some of our eggs. And so I can see Mother, although this was all, I don't know what's going on. And so Dad said that what we can do is we can take Nellie the pony, and she was a Shetland pony, and if you know Shetland ponies, they got their own mind. She said, we'll make a bag that goes on behind the pony. One side we can put a few dozen eggs, and the other side we'll put a few pounds of butter. And you can take them a couple times a week to Mr. Rousecup's general store, which was really not a big deal for a 6-year-old because it was down a dirt road about a mile away. It was really going to be all right. But Nellie had different ideas about this. Again, Shetland ponies, I swear, look at what you ask them to do, and they consider whether it's part of their agenda or not. And a lot of the time they say, oh, we don't want anything to do with this, and that's the end of it. Well, Nellie decided this was not going to be something she enjoyed doing, so it took me a long time to make that first trip to Mr. Rousecup's store. But Mr. Rousecup had Shetland ponies figured out, because when we got to the back door to unload our products, he had a cup of oats for Nellie, and he also had the largest Pepsi-Cola I'd ever seen for this little 6-year-old. So we enjoyed that trip, and from there on, when all I had to say, I taught Nellie to get her out to the pasture to bring her in to get loaded up. All I had to say was Rousecup. I started saying Rousecup, and she'd be halfway across the farm, and she'd come just a-ripping. So we loaded her up, and sure enough, we made the trip, but we always met at the back door and unloaded things, and I'm sure there was no paperwork being done. So I spent the year illegally transporting product that was supposed to be rationed to Mr. Rousecup's back door, enjoying Pepsi-Cola, and Nellie enjoying oats, and both of us having a real good time. Now, there was a little bit of good things about this, because the Vanderveers lived on the road, and what happened is that they were a little bit hard up, but they had 2 sons in the war, and we always really respected them a lot. So what Mother did was put a package over on one side of Nellie's bag that I was supposed to drop off every time, or once a week when I went down to see Mr. Rousecup. Well, the next year, things bloomed, and we bought a wagon for Nellie. So the butter increased, the eggs increased, and Mr. Miller, who was down the road, also had some goose eggs and a few other things that needed to be picked up, and I really started to pick up customers. Well, now who's going to stop a 6-year-old going down a dirt road with a Shetland pony with a wagon to inspect whether they're hauling rationed goods to a country store? Nobody. So my crime exceeded itself that year, and the 3rd year it even got better. And I never really figured it out until I was about 50. And somebody asked me, they realized I'd grown up during World War II. I'm telling you, I'm old. And And I said, you know, I started talking about it, and I started talking about rationing, and all of a sudden I realized, I didn't do any of that. We weren't taking track of anything. So really what I'm doing, folks, is I'm telling this story to you for the first time publicly, hoping that a few of you will feel good for me. So when the judge brings me up, whenever that's going to happen, that you can come to the trial and you can say good things about me, and maybe I'll have a shorter sentence. Thank you very much.